Hello again, I am Jim Bob and welcome back to Marwell Manor for the final day of our summer period here. Just collecting our brand new corn chaffer. I'll carry it on the back just to make it easier for transport to get it back to the farm, but we are going to be chaffing our corn today and then running that over to the BGA. This is going to be a long job, I am under absolutely no illusions of that. A lot of corn to get through and a narrow working width as well, so it's not going to be a quick and easy job. This is something that's going to take, I would imagine, probably most of the day, but it is something that we really do need to get done. Just let these that truck get through, pull out before the other one turns up. There we go. Bit of a miserable, overcast start to the day. Very grey skies, as you can see. A lot of cloud cover today. So not a particularly bright start, but hopefully these clouds will burn off as the day progresses. Who knows, we may even get a little bit of rain. It will be interesting to see just what happens to the weather. And I think towards the end of the day we're also going to need to do a little bit more sort of care work for our cows as well. They are burning through that little bit of TMR that we knocked up reasonably quickly, so they will need to be restocked again at some point. I am thinking that one of the things we are going to have to invest in before we leave is a larger food mixer, just because as the herd gets bigger the food requirements go up and we end up in a situation where it just takes a very, very long time to mix up a batch of TMR, suitable for a larger herd. As I say, we've doubled the number of our herd just through breeding since we started doing livestock. So we've gone from 12 cows to almost 24, which means it's twice as much TMR. I mean, a cow needs, I think, 5,000 litres of TMR to get it through sort of a 10-day period. Now, if you've got 20-odd cows, you can see very quickly that becomes a very, very large amount of TMR that needs to be made on a fairly regular basis. And if we can only mix it at a batch of 8,000 litres per time, then it takes a small, it takes an eternity to do. A small fortune in terms of time was what I was going to say, but that doesn't really make sense, does it? But yeah, it would take us an absolute eternity to mix up, at 8,000 litres a time, enough TMR to feed all of our cows for the full 10 days. So getting a larger Anderson food mixer is definitely going to be, I think, a good idea for us. Even if we only get the smaller of the two, we don't necessarily need the full-sized one, but something that'll basically give us around 3 times the capacity of our current mixing wagon will certainly speed up that mixing process quite substantially. So that's something we are definitely looking at. Right, we want to open up the header, as you can see. And what I also want to do is fold down the flap at the front of the trailer there, just to make it a little bit easier to direct the corn in there. And I'm hoping our working width, yes, it's just about in line with the corn chaffer, so we should be okay here. Let's get some full working lights on. And start chaffing our corn away. Got to be really careful that we don't damage the crop. So we've got to make sure we stay in a pretty straight line. You can see this is why I wanted that little bit of a gap between our crops as well, just so that if there was a potential issue with working width, we could try and offset it slightly. And what I am noticing, of course, as well, is that the header at the front is slightly offset, which means coming back the other way, we are probably going to damage a row of corn if we were to come back just straight up next to this pass. So that means we might have to work in the sort of a looping fashion around the field, work in a sort of a clockwise rotation around the field. Otherwise, as I say, there's a very real risk that we could just damage corn as we drive through, which is something I'm keen to avoid. You know, it might not be much that we damage each pass, but over all of this, with a working width as narrow as we have got, that's going to add up really quickly to potentially a lot of wasted corn. So yeah, we definitely have to watch out for that. But there's less of a gap. If you see, our front wheel on the right hand side kind of tucks in just behind the front of the header, but on the left hand side there is definitely almost like a wheel's width gap between the front of the header and the harvester. So that becomes a problem for us. It becomes very much a problem for us. I am wondering if maybe I can actually move. I'm going to get to the end of the pass, and then I'm going to pull up and see if I can actually move the header slightly. See if it allows me to give it more of a sort of a directional control. But there we go, one pass almost complete, and we've got 11,000 litres of chaff in our trailer. So this is going to give us, this corn strip on our field here is going to give us quite a substantial amount of material to work with. Let's just turn that off for a second. Let's pull up the help menu. Let's just see, is it going to allow me? Yeah, there's no options, is there? I thought there might be possibly an ability to perhaps change the position of the corn chaffer ever so slightly, but it's locked in place, isn't it? So I figured that would be the case. I just wanted to double check. So now I need to squeeze my way through here. This is where it's going to get really tricky, so I'm going to need a bit more room at the bottom of the pass here. I should have left a little bit more space down here when we were planting. But I'm going to need to basically just do a couple of quick sort of swipes at it like this, I think, just to chaff away a couple of lines of corn, a few rows of corn like this. So we've got a little bit more sort of passing room at the bottom of the field for when we make our turns. So let's do another one. Trying to carefully back up without, again, backing into the corn. That's not going to work. Let's pull ourselves away a bit. There we go. Get ourselves into position. It's been so long since I've used one of these. I think I used one of these around the beginning of 17, and then was the last time I used one of these. So it's been over 2 years, I think, since I last used one of these pieces of equipment. That's a long time, and you forget just how narrow the working width is. In fact, I could have sworn that they were wider when I used to use these all the time on Farming Sim 15. I could have sworn they had a wider working width. I don't know, maybe I'm just remembering differently. Maybe it's the fact that I remember using these with smaller tractors, and we're here using a 7R this time around, which is obviously much bigger than something like a semi-fortis, which was the usual kind of tractor I would use to power up one of these Pottingers. So maybe it's just a perspective thing. It does feel smaller than I remember. I don't know, like I said, I could be wrong. There we go, so pass along here. And again, we've got to kind of work this this loop border pattern, simply because of the narrow width of the header compared to the width of the tractor. We've got that wheel extra difference, that wheel extra width on the left hand side here, which means we are going to go straight into our corn and lose a row of corn if we can't try and cut the field into sections like I would normally do when I do harvesting. You know, I'll go down the middle and create a couple of different blocks to work with, so I have less turning room on each pass. Can't do that with this without damaging the corn. Maybe it's worth it just for sacrifice a single width, create that first pass, and then just start widening the gap with subsequent follow-up passes where I won't be going into the corn. Maybe I should just do that and just hire a worker, and then there'll be no crop destruction. For the worker running down, that might be a better way of doing it as well. I think we might do that actually. Just want to try and chop this up into easier to work sections. It's one of the trickier things about sort of running at a slight angle on your corn like this, is that you can't necessarily be 100% certain you're definitely getting everything chaffed through the header. And there's also the possibility that as you make the turn, you are still going to be running over some of the corn as you make the turn, which is certainly what's happening here. Some of this corn is getting run over and not actually getting put through, so we should probably do that. The other alternative, of course, is that we get the 6R out, we put the harvester on that, and we just get a worker to run the harvester while we sort of follow with the trailer, and then just... That might, again, be a better way, of being a more expensive way of doing it, but it might be a more efficient way of doing it. As you can see here, we are potentially missing bits of corn as we're going around the edge. I think I might try that, you know. I think I might get the 6R out, get a worker in and just get him running up and down, and we'll follow in the trailer. This trailer's almost full, so we won't do it this pass. We'll get rid of this, but we'll leave the header here. There we go, let's go straight here, just take a couple of rows off so I don't have to try and back out at the end, and I don't reach a fill level on the top of the trailer before we get to the end. I'm going to hire a worker just to stay in a straight line and do a couple of rows of corn like that, as opposed to a full width. Again, just so I'm not filling the trailer up before I get to the bottom. It gives me room to turn around and come back up this way. And we'll get the 6R to run the forager while we're pulling the trailer with the 7R. And then we'll just have to make our way over to the BGA. I have sought permission from the local landowners to use that sort of cut through those fields that we don't own for today, given that we've got a long distance traverse. I've spoken with the store manager as well, and he's happy with us using his car park and loading bay as a shortcut, you know, as we transport all this material to the BGA, because it's a lot of trips we're going to have to make. You can see here, look, almost a full 40,000 litres, and we haven't done that much of it yet, so we've still got several of these trips to go before we're done on this field. And if we have to go all the way out to the exit of the farm over there and then all the way back along the main road that way, it's going to add a substantial amount of travel time per pass or per trailer to this field. So all parties concerned, you know, in terms of landowners, have all been contacted, and they've all given their permission for us to use that kind of shortcut and cut up through the dealership for today while we're getting this job done, which is great. That's going to save us a whole chunk of time. And there we go, there's 32,000 litres. I thought we could make it to the end, not quite. So now I need to turn around as best I can, or at least follow the follow it around here. That might be an easier thing to do. Let's get the lights back on again, so I can see what I'm doing around here. And then we'll go drop off our first trailer's worth of chaff at the BGA, start adding this to our bunker. This is going to have a huge impact on how quickly we get that bunker filled up. Of course, don't forget we need to carve out this strip of land just here by the fence once we're done with our harvesting, so that we can add that little bit of extra land mass in. There we go, let's just drop that just there. Turn the working lights off, certainly don't want to have those on the main roads. And then we'll use the cut through that we have gained permission to use, so that we can make it through to the BGA. There we go, this is going to save us a substantial amount of time doing it this way. Let's get our cruise control set as well on the approach. Cruise control set to its lowest possible setting, so we get a nice controlled tip of a product as we come to the bunker itself. Times like this I wish that the background speed of the traffic was slightly higher than 18 miles an hour. There we go, right. So let's get ourselves into position. That's the grass, or that's the chaff from our grass harvesting that we did. Now let's see how quickly we can throw down stuff from the corn. It should be a very quick catch up, I think. Certainly larger quantities. Instead of 23,000 litres per trip, we're doing 39,000 litres per trip. Nearly double. There we go. It's the first load of chaff in. So I'll make my way back to the farm, then we'll grab the 6R and we'll try running that independently and give chase using the 7R with the trailer. So I'll see you back at the farm. Alright, let's see how we get on with this. It might be a little tricky here for this first pass. I'm hopeful we'll be able to do this. Okay, so we do have a slight problem. We don't have enough width on the first pass. Okay, so we're going to need to... We need to be alongside rather than behind. Okay, we can work with that. We'll detach that. very carefully. Squeeze through. Oh, that's tight. That's really tight. Got to have a weight on the back of the 6R, because the weight of that harvester, it unsettles the the balance of the tractor. It starts tipping forward at the on the nose. So we park up the 6R just here for a second. We'll finish this row off, and then we'll be able to use the 6R going forward, I think. Help, of course, if we lowered the header down. There we go. There we go. And we drop that down there. Yeah, you can see how tight things are around here. We could have left a little bit more space, I think. But hey, at least we know for next time. Learning those little foibles of using a piece of equipment you haven't used for years. And they've changed in that time as well. It's just learning how to use that stuff all over again. Okay, so our worker is in place. This is where it gets interesting. Oh, this is clunky and awkward. There we go. It's not helped by the fact that they're, even though I tried to avoid using driving through bushes, without collisions, I still have to on occasion. But there is no boundary behind this bush. The other side of it is literally a solid border. So there we go. Right. Finally, I think. We are actually in a position to get our chaffing done. It's a little bit of a frustratingly awkward way to do this, but if we had a forage harvester, that thing would cost us a fortune to lease, and every hour of use would effectively nearly double the lease cost as well. So, yeah, we'll run like this for a bit. We'll see how well we do. I'm thinking that once we get into a rhythm and we tidy up some of these areas a little bit, we'll actually end up with quite an efficient way of chaffing our corn here. So it'll take a little while, but it'll work quite nicely and efficiently. And that, I think, is perhaps the slightly more important thing. So as you can see, the pit is starting to fill up and we're running out of easy access space. So it's time for us to start pushing our chaff into much more manageable proportions with a silage blade. Quite cheap. I think it only cost me about $7 grand, $8 grand. Maybe even less than that. It's the smaller of the two because that one can be configured for a 3-point attacher rather than just a wheel loader. And this way we can use the 7R. I was hoping actually to be able to do this with our telehandler, but unfortunately there is a blade that will fit a telehandler attachment, so we're having to do it with the 7R. But having said that, the 7R will give us much more power for the job anyway. There we go. So we're just looking to basically flatten this out a little bit, just so that we can create a ramp to continue delivering our chaff. So we need to do the same here as well. Start to fill in those sort of crevices between the piles. Like just there, for example. And I want to be quick on this because we do still have a worker in the 6R waiting for us to get back with the next trailer load. I'm just trying to create a smoother surface to, as I say, to enable the continuation of delivering chaff into the bunker. Not looking to get it all perfect and flattened and compacted at this stage. Just looking to, as I say, smooth out the surface for ease of delivery. That's it. We'll do all that once we're done for the day with our chaffing. That should be enough, I think. That'll give us a relatively clean surface. So let's fold that up. We'll drop it just there. Put the weight on the front again. This is the weight that was up against the side of the shed there. Just literally just hooked up to that. We're running that on the front of the 7R to help balance the trailer a little bit better. Now let's go recollect our trailer. There it is. And we'll make our way back to the farm to continue our corn chaffing. So we're getting close to the fence again, which means we kind of need to... I'm doing this from the wrong side, so I am losing a bit of corn, but we need to widen our border paths along here a little bit. Let's use this area just to turn around here. Put an extra couple of passes in, because the worker is now starting to get to the point where, because we are so close against that solid fence, he's struggling a little bit. So, as I say, we need to just kind of widen this out a little bit. We'll try and get it in a nice straight angle like this. And we'll sacrifice a little bit of corn to crop destruction. But that, there we go, should give us a nice easier ride going forward. So let's once again drop off the header. There we go. 6R is parked and ready and waiting, as you can see. Put the weight back on the fronts. You see the radar has changed a little bit. We've got clouds still, but the sun has come out a bit and we've got some nice blue skies, but we have got rain on the way. Now, I believe we should be okay to carry on chaffing. In 17 we could chaff in the rain, but rain is so infrequent in 19 at the moment that I honestly can't say that that's definitely going to be the case, because I haven't tried chaffing in the wet. I haven't done that much chaffing at all in 19 yet, so I'm assuming that we're going to be okay, but I can't say for definite that we will be. So this will be quite useful to actually check and see whether or not we're going to have an issue with weather when it comes to chaffing corn. Like I said, in 17 we could chaff corn in the rain. It was absolutely no problem because we were chopping it rather than harvesting it. this time around. I would imagine that would stay the same, but I guess we'll find out for definite as the day progresses and that rain does drop in. So, watch this space. Alright, first delivery in our newly slightly levelled bunker. So again, I'm going to drop cruise control right down to its lowest setting. In fact, actually, if I turn cruise control off altogether like that, or set it to 0, I should still be able to crawl forward at an even slower speed, and that way we can get a nice wide and fat bit of chaff plonked onto the floor of the bunker here. So let's try that. Open the door, turn on cruise control, slow crawl, nice even distribution. Oh, we're wedged. Put a little bit more grunt into the cruise control. No, we're still stuck. Let's stop the tip. How have we got wedged? Where have we got wedged? I think somehow we might have got ourselves wedged on the wall of the bunker. Yeah, you can see there, as soon as I disconnected the trailer, you see it getting pushed. Alright, let's try reconnecting here. It's still sliding, look. And it won't move. It's kind of got itself wedged and jammed, doesn't it? Okay. We got a little bit too close to the wall, I think. This could be tricky. Try and get the weight in place and use that as almost like a lever, perhaps. That's not working. Dear oh dear. Alright, I'm going to have to try a desperation tactic and giving it a nudge like that. If worst comes to worst, I'm going to have to reset the trailer, and I really don't want to do that because then we lose the contents of the trailer. It's very, very stuck at the moment. I have a new idea. I'll try using the arm of the telehandler over the wall. Can I squeeze through this gap? Oh, just about. Let's see if I can push the trailer. Oh, that is really, really stuck. I think I might have to reset the trailer here. We might have to lose probably about 30,000 litres of chaff here. A little bit of movement. Question is that enough? Let's find out. Yes, there we go. Okay, so we somehow got it wedged. We've got it clear, and let's just stay away from the wall. Not get quite so close to that. There we go. I think we were just tipping a little bit too close to the wall. There we go, problem solved. So now we know what to avoid doing for the next ones. we'll try doing that. And if it stays to be a problem because it widens the width of what we're tipping at a lower speed, if that's proving the problem, then we'll go back up to a 1 mile an hour tip speed, so that it's a longer but narrower tip, and then we should keep control a little bit better that way. So I'll make my way back to the farm and grab the next load of chaff. We're about halfway through the field, and well, the time is ticking on. It's 3:15. This job is definitely taking longer than I thought it would do. I knew it was going to take a while, but I didn't factor in just how long it would take to travel back and forth to the BGA. Even with the shortcut that we're using, it's still taking us a long time to turn around between trailer loads, unfortunately. So it's going to take us till the end of the day to get this done. This is going to be our job for the entire day. It's just finishing this off, and we may even have to leave a little bit and come back and chaff it at another point. The rain is still several hours away as well, I would imagine, so I don't even know if we're going to see rain today. What I might possibly do is I might do a little test off camera. If it starts raining at like 11-12 at night, I might jump in and do a quick little attempt at chaffing, just to make sure that we can definitely still chaff in the rain. As I said, I'm pretty sure we can, because we used to be able to, and the mechanics don't really seem to have changed that much between 17 and 19, so it shouldn't be an issue. But it's always nice to get official confirmation, isn't it? So all we can do is just keep plodding away and turning the field over as quickly as possible. And get through it as fast as we can. So you can see how much ground we've covered, and you can see how much still remains. There's still a fair old chunk of corn there, but we are getting a very, very large amount of grass for the bunker. So much so that I don't think we're going to need to do any more sort of grass cuts to fill up the bunker. I think we'll have more than enough silage by the time that this field is fully chaffed. And then if we do a grass cut for silage, we can use it for the bunker here at the farm, and just make sure that we have a very large stockpile of TMR, or a very large stock of silage for TMR going forward. And that would then free up the half of the field that remains on 19 for hay work, for when we need hay. So let's have a quick look and price up a new mixing wagon, see how much that's going to cost us. And we have no real income left, and we're looking at 70 grand. That's quite pricey. Let's take a look and see what else is available, because we've had some mods go live. Oops, just knocked my microphone there, sorry about that. We are cutting into the field and blocking off the harvester there. There we go, just need to straighten up at a better angle. There we go, there is a Silo King mixer mod, which, let's see, the normal one holds 16,000 litres and it's 53 grand. The modded version is the same price but holds 18,000 litres. Now again, in terms of bales, that doesn't help us. That would still be 4 bales, but we are moving away from bales for our mix. And if we're going to have a lot of loose silage, then we could go 2 bales of hay, which would be 8,000, and then we could put in 10,000 litres of loose silage to mix up our TMR that way. And that way we get an extra almost 2,000 litres per mix, because we wouldn't get it exactly up to 18,000 litres with loose silage, but we get close. So that might be one way of going. But having said that, 53 grand, if we were to pay out an extra, well, look at that, an extra 17,000, we could go all the way up to just under 23,500 there. Again, we could do half of that would be sort of 12,000, so we could do that in 3 bales of hay, and then the rest in loose silage. We'd have a slightly less than 50-50 mix, so we'd have, say, 55-45 in favour of hay over silage. But hey, we could even take out an extra hay bale. We could go with 2 hay bales and then the rest in loose silage. And as long as, I say, as we keep that minimum of 25% of one product and 75% of the other, that we're still within the mix boundaries that we need to make TMR. So we could still do that, and the extra 17 grand it would cost us would give us a much larger volume of TMR. Again, would speed the job up quite substantially. So it may be that that's what we have to end up doing, is finding the way to raise that little bit of extra cash and buying the larger mixer. I think that's going to be a winter purchase, something that we can invest some of the money we make from crop sales and selling off the silage at the BGA. I think that is something that we would definitely need to look at, would be getting a brand new mixer for the farm. So we'll make that decision as we get closer to the end of the day, or closer to the end of the year, I think, once we have a bit more money to play about with. Because with no crop left in stock to sell until winter, apart from obviously the stuff that we harvested yesterday and the stuff that we still got to harvest, we won't be selling that till winter, so we've got nothing that we can sell immediately. We've sold all of our silage bales now, so we'll get little bits of money through the rest of the year from occasional milk sales, and also little bits on a daily basis from our greenhouses, which are covering our sort of operating and running costs. But there's no large injection of cash now until the winter. So yeah, any decisions like that, I think we're going to have to wait until we get to that point. Once we have that money available, then we can see what we do and don't need to purchase. The little bits of cash that we have now, the little bits that will be dribbling in with milk sales, we'll need for various little upgrades or attachments to what we currently have. So we're going to need a big bucket for our telehandler, for example, for when we come to sell the silage, and the money that we have on hand now is what we're going to have to use to make that purchase. I'm toying with the idea of even getting that out of the way today. We'll have a look. I might just wait until we're a little bit closer, or we do a milk sale. In fact, how much milk do I actually have at the moment? Let's take a look. We have 10,000 litres, so I have enough for a trailer. What's our prices looking like for milk at the moment? Not great, but they are on the improvement, so maybe tomorrow we might sell a trailer's worth of milk. We'll see what that price stabilises at. Well, as you can see from the window wipers, it has started to rain. Between finishing or delivering the chaff and making our way back, the rain has started. So, moment of truth time. Can we chaff in the rain? We should be able to. Let's find out. See, the arm is moving around. Down goes the chaffer, and there we go. We are chaffing in the rain. So good to know that we can still do that. Like I said, I was fully expecting it, and I would have been amazed if we were no longer able to chaff in wet weather like this. But at least now we have definite confirmation that we can chaff in the rain. And it was, as I say, getting dark already, but with those clouds swooping in, it's getting even darker. So we're going to have to probably run with lights just for better visibility. We're a little bit too fast. Let's slow down a bit. Let that catch up. There we go. Still got a sizable chunk of corn left to go. It's not too bad. But I would say we're about 2/3 of the way through. 6:30. I will keep pushing on as long as I can. Ideally, I'd like to get this job done today. It's definitely turning into a bit of a long job, this one. But it's been worth it, I think. the amount of silage we are getting off this field is, well, the amount of chaff we're getting off this field is a lot. I've not even been counting trailer loads, but I'm just keeping an eye basically on how full the bunker's getting, and it's filling up very nicely indeed. So I think this will be it for chaffing at the BGA this year. This field, like I said, we're going to have a lot of silage to process through there, and then any other sort of mowing that we do for chaff, we will use that here on the farm. That would be a better option, I think. So there we go. Let that turn around. We'll do the same here. It's nice to work in the rain again. We don't get very many opportunities. Of course, when Seasons comes out, that'll change quite dramatically. And I think this is what a lot of people also that have grumbled about not getting any wet weather are also forgetting, is that this, maybe it's a little bit more extreme in some circumstances. It does seem to be a little bit less rain on the base game version than it was with 17. But even with 17, you got lots and lots and lots of lovely sunny weather, and then you got a little bit of rain that lasted for a few hours, and then you just got lots and lots and lots of sunny weather again. And it wasn't until Seasons came out that we started to get rain on regular intervals, and we could see when it was coming. And if you played on a sort of a day-by-day kind of system like I do, rather than in real time, then you would tick through and you would get these wet days. And then obviously, depending on the time of year, you would get more wet days than others. But, I've seen quite a few people who grumble about never getting rain, but they play in real time. So 24 hours of real-time gameplay, that's one day. It's one in-game day. It's not much, is it, when you think about it? So it's not at all surprising that some people haven't ever seen rain, because they only play on a real-time basis. So, if you assume that maybe 1 in 10 days gets wet weather, because this is our second rainy day, I think, and since we started. So we've had, say, one day a year, and we're running, what we ran, was it 20 days on our first year? We got 1 day of rain. If you translate that into real-time hours, you play in real time, that's 480 hours, assuming that you're not skipping the nights and you're working through the nights. But let's say you're skipping the nights, you're skipping, and so you're playing 12 hours a day, and then you skip skip from 8 in the evening till 8 in the morning, and then you still play real time. That's still 240 hours, based on what we saw in our first year. So again, when you look at it like that, maybe it's not surprising people haven't seen rain. But, look how dark it's getting out the front now. Those storm clouds rolling in. It's getting really dark really quickly, combined with the fact that it's approaching 7 o'clock. Yeah, getting very, very dark indeed. So I'll press on. I'll try and get through this as quick as I can, but it's going to be a late one again, I think. So as you can see, it's gone 10 o'clock at night. We're still chaffing away on the field, but there's not a huge amount left, but it's now gone 10. This is going to be the last load that we're going to run today. We'll have to finish the rest of the corn off tomorrow. A little bit frustrating, but it is what it is. It's taking so long, and it's this journey here that's killing us. Yeah, if we were chaffing and putting this into our BGA, then it would have been done a long time ago. But this trip does really take it out of us, even though it's not too far. The fact that we have to kind of do it in a looped kind of manner, and there's no direct route, does make it very, very time consuming, and so we have literally just run out of time. Luckily there isn't too much left to do. If I when I get to the BGA, I'll pull up the overlay and show you how much is left. As I say, we'll get that done tomorrow. It's very dark in here as well. Let's get our working lights on full. There we go, now that we're off the road. You can see how well the bunker's filling up. Obviously this will look a lot less once we get it all compacted and levelled, but it's still a sizable amount of chaff in here, as you can see. There we go. So if we take a look at what's left, there we go, that's what's left there. But even that little bit, we're still looking till probably midnight to get done, and you know, we spent long enough working on this field, so we'll call it a day here and head back, close everything down. We'll finish that off in the morning, and then we'll probably jump straight onto the next field for harvesting again, assuming that the rain has stopped by then. I imagine it probably will have done. So that's it from me. Thanks for watching. I am Jim Bob, and I'll be back with some more Marwell Manor very soon.